We have our What's Up at ESD, Environmental Services Division, that we have a rain barrel sale going on, and the rain barrel can also work as a laptop holder. But our rain barrel, so there's little slips on that going on. We've been doing webinars. We did a rain barrel one, a compost one, assorted ones, and they're all archived on our website, and more are coming up. Like next Tuesday at noon is one on trees, the importance of trees related to water. So those have all been going on since February, and will continue the rest of the year. And then we have a little blog, and there will be a business webinar series coming up too for businesses of how they can prevent pollution. But for tonight, the theme is native plants, that it's finally getting into garden mode. His business, he began it in 1997, and he carries 50 to 60 different species of native plants. But also he works full-time at UWS as a research botanist and conducts wetland surveys, and he's done over 130 shoreline restorations from 1997 to 2012 on inland lakes and inland rivers. So he's going to present the special area of shoreline restoration. And I think
we'll get there eventually.
And then I did want to make a point of who else, for the different booths that are here. Here we have Wild Ones, and is that the Master Gardener? I'm not sure.
With Master Gardener.
No, but I didn't know what all that, if someone was having information there. But there's Western Land Trust, and then Wild Woods is here too. Here for critters out there. Wild Woods rehab is for rehabilitating mammals, birds, different species that have had an injury or something to them. So they're another local area group for supporting, for potentially volunteering with, learning more about it. We need both the habitat and then healthy wildlife. So they're part of rehabilitating wildlife.
So which Western, excuse me, I'm Paul Hlina. Voice is a little bit sore, so we'll get through it as best we can. Which restoration presentation would you like to see? 2, 3, 4, or 1? Whichever one you're going to whichever one we're going to do, I'm going to take the beginning of it and the end of it. Okay, and so we're going to whip through the middle as fast as we can. We'll start with this one, see what we get. I've got 10 minutes, right?
10, 15 minutes.
That's right. 10, 15 minutes. When did you go?
We started a little late, so, you know.
Okay. I have been in business since 1997 growing native plants, which is my passion in life. We started doing shoreline restoration in 97, but I didn't build my first greenhouses until 2000. These are products of my greenhouse this year. All of those were seeded between March 15th and April 1st. I grow totally organic, so that is the product of an organic growing plant. And this is what they usually look like in July. I think I gave them too much seaweed this year or something. But they look really, really nice. Whoops. Let's see, what's the button to push the slide? Where's my little flicker? I started out my career with the Park Service. We had all these neat little flickers. We used to have 2 in both hands. We had 6 screens. We did the PowerPoint stuff, you know, with that fading and the checkerboards and all that stuff. We were doing that in the 70s.
So it is this one?
Which one is it?
It's down now. I haven't
There.
started.
Okay, well, there we go. Reasons for living on a lake. I'm going to talk to you about every lake in Wisconsin except the big one, Lake Superior or Lake Michigan, I guess. We have never done a restoration on those 2 lakes. They are way too big. They have 2 big waves coming across, not just a mile like you find in an inland wetland, but you know, the whole country coming at you in the corners of Lake Superior. So we're not geared for that. We did inland lakes, and we worked from as far south as Rice Lake, I think was the furthest project. Furthest east was Hurley. Furthest north was Ely. And most of our area was in northeast or northwest Wisconsin. I'll do it. Reasons for living on a lake. I think it has something to do with that uncanny coincidence that the planet is made up of 2/3 of the water. Our bodies have the same exact percentage. Pretty big mystery, you know, why? Well, I think that's the primary reason we live on lakes. I think there's some connection, something we get from being there. But it's not only us that live on lake shores. There we are, contemplating where we came from. Only a lake can answer that question. And kids obviously, people go to lakes for recreational purposes. But the water's edge, there's a lot of other things going on. Actually, 90% of any wildlife, insect, amphibian, reptile, mammal, bird, fish, did I get them all? 90% of them use the interface in the water. It's called the littoral zone. I'll tell you how far that is. Up into about 300 feet of upland. So that's not a very long zone. The littoral zone can be anywhere from 10 feet to maybe 100 feet, depending on the kinds of plants that you have growing in shoreline. So that's the zone I'm talking about. That's the zone that 90% of all lives. And that's the zone that people want to be close to, too.
So does the arrowhead, does that plant include the water's edge, or are you saying just the upland, the 300 feet of upland?
300 feet upland,
Okay.
and you get past the wet zone. So there's and it says 80, the line. Oh, that's on the endangered species list.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to tell you, I was in practice this show at least once before I got here. Then I got a call at 6 o'clock last night after being way busy at the university and trying to get home, and it was my son Matt. He said, "Where are you? Where's Mom? His brother was in town. I think I have appendicitis."
Oh,
He doesn't.
oh, good.
But I've got a story about this guy. This is the bittern that puts its head up when he's alarmed or scared. No, that's not what they do. Not when they're nesting, they don't do that, because I was in a wetland near Mellon, and I was in a sedge meadow, and I was terrified when I heard. I was walking, and next to me was this bird that looked like a turtle, as big as a snapping turtle. And it was hissing and screeching. And it was looking at me in between the eyes, and it was not doing its upright thing, it was doing its pointed thing. And you step one bit closer, and I'm gonna, and it scared the heck out of me. Whenever it's alarm clock, you never hear it in any bird tape anywhere. I still have never heard that call before. And then after I saw it, I was like, I want to see another, I want to see another. They're wonderful, wonderful critters, you know. It was really a delight to actually see it. It was a gift. Okay, so they also live on the shore. And of course, the top of the food chain need those tall trees on the shore. And it's okay if they fall into the water too after their time, as I think I heard. Okay. We lived in an easier time back in the 50s, 60s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You know, this was the size of the cabin. You know, and notice that's within that littoral zone and that 300 feet, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, it's not a big deal. Just one little teeny little house.
Yeah.
Okay, this started about in I'd say mid-70s and went crazy in the 90s. You know, I pay a little bit of attention to politics, you know, and I hear that thing about, I totally lost my train of thought, so I'll just go on. We're not supposed to talk about politics anymore. But anyway, the houses, they were just saying economic prosperity and stuff. This is where some of it went. That's what I was going to say. This is where a lot of it went in our northwest, the entire state of started more than half. One other little fact about the northwest corner, which includes 5 counties in Wisconsin. There are 15,000 lakes, inland lakes, in the state of Wisconsin, not just 10. We got 15. Anyway, and of those 15,000, we have 1/3 of them in these 5 counties in northwest Wisconsin. We have 5,000. And if you include all of northern Wisconsin, it obviously rises even more. But that's the fact, I know. Okay. I'm not going to go through all this part. I'm going to talk, I'm not going to go through all the impacts. I think it's pretty obvious if you have a few little houses around the lake, maybe 20 in, in the 50s and 60s, and then you're going to these big things. You're going to have increased sedimentation. You're going to have less diverse vegetation. But I want to talk about, to get to the end of this thing so I don't get into all those details, I'm going to rifle through a few slides here and get to the actual restoration. Oh yeah, there's a good one. I got to go back. I can't go back there. There we go. That's my recipe book right there. And I wish I could grow even more native plants. I mean, the ones that we actually see when we're walking around in the forest. The problem with many of our native plants, they need a lot of time. They need a lot of time for their seeds to germinate. They need a lot of time to grow into viable plants. But there are a suite of them that do not take as much time. If we look at these plants starting in your upper right, your right, is the blue flag iris, which you do not plant on March 15th when you've only given it 3 months of cold stratification, as I learned this year. You have to wait till 6 months of cold stratification. Butterfly weed never comes up until June 10th when you plant it in the ground around up here in the northern area, even though it's coming up quite a bit heavier just south, Sullivan Springs and south. My seed source for the butterfly weed is from the Gordon Bird Sanctuary. I collect most of my native seed, though. It used to be about 80%. I purchased about 20. Now it's probably more like 50-50. This next guy is cobra's root. Actually saw that in the wild last year in a wetland. It was so exciting. It really grows out there. And blueberry. That's one of our upland acidic in that 300-foot zone I was telling you about. And let's see what's next. That's one of the trees. I think it is I can't tell. I gotta look at it. What is that? A spruce or a fir? Jack pine.
Oh, what? A jack?
Yeah, jack pine. So he grows, oh, well, he doesn't want to tell me. All right. Let's see. Aha. Jack pine that grows alongside in the pine barrens with the butterfly weed. These are habitats that you find, not just wetlands. Black-eyed Susan, white cedar, steeplebush, pin cherry, and rough blazing star. There's a few. Okay. What do I get to? There's my greenhouse. There's my native plant seed. Pretty easy. Never supposed to do that on a slideshow. You're never supposed to say what is in the picture. This is a greenhouse in a greenhouse. Okay, this is where this is where these guys grew, right here, right in this. Yeah, there's 2 electrical wires, cables in there, foam on pallets, sand, and put them in the cooker for anywhere from 4 to 10 days, and voila, they do some magic. And then they come out. They have to live. If they can't live on 60-degree weather, they're not going to get any hotter. In my greenhouse in the middle of April this year. That's what it looks like just a few months later. And that used to be my tree and shrub garden, but I don't do trees and shrubs anymore. Okay, here we go. This is the part I really wanted. We got 5 more minutes? Is that okay with everybody? I've already gone 5 more minutes. You can stand me 5 more? Okay. When we come to a restoration site, we're still doing restoration a little bit. We don't do the fourth, fifth, or sixth step anymore. Okay? Though we do 1, 2, 3 still, and I'll be doing a couple here in the next month. First, we assess the site. You know, what's left? What is in the natural area that we can build upon to build our restorations? We develop a plan. Then we choose the suitable plans. Some of those I showed you. We prepare, well, this is part I get somebody else to do. We prepare the site. We'll talk about that with them else. Then you actually plant the plants, and then you can't walk away right away. It is less maintenance than pulling out the lawnmower and mowing all the time, but it still is more, it's less maintenance than a garden, but it's more maintenance than just, you know. So there is some, you have to do something. Okay, site assessment. When we come to a site, we want to know if there's different zones along a shoreline. There is the littoral zone, which is in the water. And in the littoral zone, there's actually 3 different zones. I won't go into those, but there's 3 different zones where different plants groups will grow. And then you get onto the upland, and if it's close enough to the water table, the lake's high, the water table, you can, there's usually an area that in the springtime, it may flood sometimes along the lake shore. So those are plants that are what we consider our wetland plants. Can tolerate the spring high waters. As the waters recede, they can tolerate the drier conditions. Sun exposure is huge. I remember I think it was the first year, 1997, 98, I had the DNR come out and look at one of my plantings, and I had butterfly weed and black-eyed Susan and prairie plants and 2 trees in the corner, and they said, that's not a native planting. That's not what the forest would have been. I said, yeah, if we had planted all the stuff that you had on your list, it would have been dead, because it would have been full sun, which is not all, those plants aren't able to grow in the shade or in the sun until they have the canopy, which I can't reproduce in a couple of years. So that was always interesting. So the restoration has, so you have to start somewhere. And so we start with what we call pioneer species. We identify existing vegetation, identify native plant communities nearby that, again, we can hopefully build our restoration around. Restoration goals. This is something you gotta ask people. Are you dealing with birds and butterflies? Well, I have the plants that can do that. Do you want habitat for frogs and maybe blue spotted salamanders? Something. It's a blue salamander that has dots on it, but I don't know its name. What kind of creatures do you want it to have? Runoff control. You have an erosion problem. Okay, not only from the shoreline but from the house. Can plants help do that? And then aesthetics. It is very difficult with people that purchase their houses that are the example of little mansions to get them to give up their view. We had an issue here in Superior about giving up a view. And some people like that view from as far as their eye can see that way and as far as their eye can see that way. Can't see through trees. So we go through a little bit of education that it's always so startling to me when I come to a shoreline. I bring the shoreline over and I said, geez, what a beautiful lake. Look at that. Look at how the trees are shimmering off the lake out there. Can you see that? I said, yeah, that's why I bought this property. And I'm standing on a football field of mowed lawn. So the poor guy that has land over there that's shimmering off the lake gets to look at the guy here who's got a football field and a riding lawnmower every Sunday, you know. So those are the kinds of things that I would try to educate people about. I already went through some of this. These are the 3 different zones in the littoral zone: open water, floating, submerged, emergent vegetation, and then the lake bank. That area is the wetland. You know, the wetland where we typically, that one. Design considerations. People didn't invest in this lakeshore property so they could be sandwiched into a forest necessarily. They want to use the site. They have the store docks, they have to do other things. I mentioned the view. The size of the restoration area, many of the counties passed ordinances that said you couldn't go more, you have to come back 35 feet if you're going to get cost share money. I do a lot of private projects where they'll only do sometimes 10 feet. Plant stratification, we try to fit that in everywhere. My devious long-term goal is to give you a prairie in the front yard. But I know the balsam and the spruce and the pines are going to come in. I hope you liked your prairie for a decade maybe. But then there's going to be these beautiful trees that come in. And then those prairie plants, those pioneer species I sold you 10 years ago are not necessarily the ones that are going to be there. Maybe they'll like that tree. Maybe we'll start building the forest up just a little bit more and have a couple trees, couple shrubs for our bird species to have along the shoreline. Okay. And I'm going to get past that. Oh, that's a typical design that I would do. Talked about plant selection a little bit, plant types. Here we go. Site prep. Several different methods. I like the smothering method more than any other. I still wish I could recycle that petroleum-based plastic, black plastic I have to deal with, but that smothers it fairly well, and it has to be on during the hottest part of the year, which we haven't seen for at least 8 months. So if you put this on in September, it's not going to work until this year, until probably July. Even though my wife was pulling up black plastic in my front yard, and she's never come to one of my programs. And she was in a crabby mood because of the weather, so I didn't say anything about her pulling it up a month early.
Back down tomorrow.
Okay, but if you pull it up at the right time, you have killed the lawn. You've killed the seeds that are back in the lawn. You've killed the roots that were in the grass. Grass roots are only about that deep, okay? So you can kill them. You can kill any seed in there as well. That doesn't mean in a year from now you can keep out seed from coming in later, but you at least did that. The other thing you killed is all the soil microbes, and that always bothered me in 97, 98, 99, 2000. And I said, when I grow plants, I'm going to figure out how to make these not just plants, but biological units, that when they come back into this site, they're colonizing what was there before. And so my plants have, if you had a microscope, you probably could take just one of those little plugs and you'd see nematodes, and you'd see mycorrhizae fungi, and you would see protozoans and amoebas and all kinds of interesting little bugs that are what they're doing. They have associations with our plants. Plants don't grow in sterile environments. We usually plant 12 to 18 inches apart. I have no idea what I want to say about that, so I won't. These are some examples. I only have like 3 more slides here. This is a pine forest ground cover restoration, so it can happen in deep pine trees, and these are shade-tolerant plants. Okay, and this one obviously is more like a prairie with very little canopy trees, sub-canopy, or shrub layers. So we introduced the prairie look, but there are shrubs and trees that we planted in there as well. And then this was a fern one, another deep shaded area. And she already had an 80-foot buffer. She wanted it to be 110. And she just wanted to bring quickly the ferns up. And there's another, a long time ago, 2000, a long time ago now. There's some helpful websites. My website doesn't, once I started working for the university, I could not maintain the website, and I pretty much advertise at will. I always had a purpose. If you read my brochure, you'll understand my purpose. I never wanted to have a big operation. I live in an alder swamp with full of marigolds, full of, I think I found Pedicitis sagittatus, which is arrowhead sweet coltsfoot, and Darian was mentioning one of those rare plants. This is one of the hot spots for that plant. That's growing in my backyard. I'm not about to fill my weapons so I can sell you more native plants. No thanks. So that's about who I am and what we're about. So thank you. Oh, what I bring for you? Only a peck of a little stuff. I do have a catalog if you're interested. Like Cindy mentioned, we grow about 50, 60 plants now. We don't do many shrubs. If you do come to my place, I've converted my trees and shrubs into an organic heirloom vegetable garden. I'm hoping to feed some people someday. I want to feed at least 3 families so we overgrow. So if you come out to my place, you'll be one of those families and you'll come away with either a cucumber, a tomato, and a native plant. The reason we went into the heirlooms is because just like we're preserving native genetic diversity, we want to do the same thing with our food crops. So that's why we're doing that. We have swamp milkweed. That is you spoke earlier, you probably mentioned this is the year of milkweed. We only have 2 varieties this year, swamp and butterfly milkweed. We have brown-eyed Susan. We have blue vervain.
The blue vervain was one that somebody asked about in one of my pictures. It's all purple.
Yeah, the haze, the purple haze from distance. Not going to see it from, your patio window, but as soon as you get outside, you say, what is that? That's purple up there, and you go out and it's delightful. And then caterpillar sedge and fox sedge. And these are more rain garden, wetland border, emergent aquatic wetland vegetation plants.
And he does have catalogs there too.
They have catalogs, you can take this to these.
So we can use the time now. Does anyone, I don't know, Carol, if you want to stand up too, does anyone have any more questions, or to Jane, from as we kind of held off on some questions? Does anyone have any questions for any of them? Otherwise, we can turn the lights on and we can just roam around.
So Wild Ones is a national group. What is the local chapter?
The local chapter, we're called the Arrowhead chapter, and we have members from Superior, Duluth, and the surrounding areas, actually down to Barnes and so on. And we, just through April, so September through April, we have a program every month at Hartley Nature Center, and we help tend a garden, a huge butterfly garden at Hartley, in exchange for that meeting room. But if you're interested in getting on our mailing list, and or if you have ideas for speakers, Jane, you have a sign up, right, Kathy?
Yeah, there's a clipboard back there, and I will add your name to our general interested persons email list, so that any activities, speakers, whatever we have, we just send out a mass email so everybody knows about it. And then you come if you want. You don't have to be a member to attend our speakers and our meetings, though maybe you'll be interested enough that you'll want to. And if you do become a member, you do get some discounts and some insider stuff, but you also get, it's like a bi-monthly journal that I actually keep, and I bind them. They're so valuable, about articles that are written, and information that you...
All aspects of native plants, everything's from the Roundup debate, is it, good or bad, and things like that, to mycorrhizate. It's 5-part series on the biology of the soil and the importance of soil microbes and things like that. So if you want to learn more, there's articles for beginners to people who have been in the field for years.
And the Wild Ones website, if you take one of our brochures that has the email or the address on for the website, Wild Ones national website is absolutely excellent. They have a whole library of resources that you can read, you can print off, with links to more places and more information about rain gardens, about plants, about all kinds of stuff. So it's a good resource just to go and take a look at.
The other website you got on the back of your shirt, that's for wild.
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
the local or
We
what?
finally purchased the URL wildlands.org from an unsavory
Yeah.
group.
So this is the old one. Now it's just www.wildones.org.
I know. And will that lead you into our local
And then from there, there's a place where it says connect, and I think you go to chapters in Minnesota.
And it's called Arrowhead Chapter.
And we have information for our chapter in our chapter. You know, they have Minnesota and then you go to ours.
And you do your program September through April. What happens in the
then,
summer?
I'm glad you asked that. It's like she's being paid to ask
Well,
questions.
'cause
We're
I
having
don't know,
a
I'm
wildflower
seasonal.
walk with Larry Weber,
Yeah.
the retired biology teacher from Marshall. I don't know if you've ever
Oh, I
done a
know.
wildflower walk with
You
Larry
read
or
his articles in the
classes.
newspaper.
So it's the Tuesday right after Memorial Day, May 28th. We're meeting, and we're going to Jay Cook, but since the swinging bridge is out, there's a secret location. Not a secret, but you have to look at the website to get the directions to drive out of Carlton to the end of some dead end road where we're meeting. But it's, that'll be really fun. So 6 o'clock on May 28th, if you want to try to get out and see wildflowers at Jay Cook.
Actually, I printed out on a yellow sheet on the one side of our board, has all information about the spring walk. That'll be on May 28th. But then we'll be part of the Rose Garden, Duluth Flower Society, big plant sale, Memorial Day Saturday, Memorial Day weekend Saturday.
Which is this Saturday.
Yeah, coming up. But also then we're planning, go and look, there are 3 different things that are listed there above. But during the summer, we do garden maintenance at Hartley, Butterfly Garden, and also we maintain our own garden in Leif Erikson Park. But also we do field trips to people's yards. You know, they open up their yards for little tours through. Sometimes they have fabulous yards, or maybe they just moved there and they need lots of help and suggestions. And so we do that too.
Do we have any master gardeners in the audience?
Well,
Are you?
are you? No, I was
I
gonna
know,
say,
there's 2 master gardeners from Superior that came to Bayfield on Saturday, purchased a couple flats of plants and left some behind after their review.
Yeah, it was Kathy and Cheryl.
I know their names,
Yeah.
and I know their faces, I don't know their names.
It's Kathy and Cheryl.
We tell them to come and get their
Yeah.
leaf.
Cheryl Leslie, okay.
Yeah, did they tell you that they left?
No, but I know they went there.
Yeah,
It's
that's
gotta be them.
okay, we can contact, I don't have their contact.
Oh, yeah,
information.
yeah.
I'd love to get, I think they paid for their plans too, so.
You think, I'll make sure they do.
We'll go stand by our display.
Again, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.